man you just saw is Meir Kahane, a Jewish supremacist rabbi. Kahane died decades ago, but his racist ideology can be found today among his supporters. They are known as Kahanists.
Rabbi Kahane was like David HaMelech.
So, who is Meir Kahane and what were his beliefs?
First of all, there are no Palestine Arabs. There is no Palestine. There are no Palestinian Arabs. These are Arabs.
Kahane, who was born in New York in 1932, was an Orthodox rabbi. As a child, his Brooklyn family home welcomed visitors like Menachem Begin. Begin, who would later become Israel's sixth prime minister with Likud party, was the leader of the Zionist terrorist organization Irgun. Kahane's father helped smuggle weapons to Irgun and was also close to Vladimir Jabotinsky. Jabotinsky was the founder of the revisionist movement, which advocates for a territorial maximalism of a Jewish state. As for the young Kahane, he ended up joining Betar, the paramilitary youth wing of the revisionist movement, though he never visited Palestine. In 1968, when Kahane was in his 30s, he founded and headed the Jewish Defense League in New York. The JDL branded itself as a so-called self-defense movement against anti-Semitism, but it rapidly turned into a terror group, carrying out brutal beatings, deadly shootings, and bombings. The JDL terrorized and harassed foreign diplomats, Arabs, Muslims, and even members of the Jewish community, such as scholars, community leaders, and officials in the US. So how did the US-born Kahane end up in Israel? In 1971, Kahane's JDL activities found him standing in a courtroom in Brooklyn where a judge handed down a 5-year suspended sentence and probation for conspiring to make a bomb. 2 months later, he moved to Israel with his family. That's where Kahane created his own political party, Kach, meaning this is the way in Hebrew. Kach had little success in elections in the 1970s and 1980, but in 1984, Kahane managed to win a Knesset seat. Kahane advocated for the expulsion of all Palestinians from Israel, the occupied West Bank, and Gaza.
There are 22 Arab countries, God bless them all. Let the Arabs who live inside Israel live with their brothers and their sisters.
He proposed segregation between Jews and Arabs and restricting democratic rights to Jews only. Kahane's extremism was not well received by MKs, who often walked out of the Knesset when he spoke. In 1985, a law was passed banning parties that overtly incite racism, subsequently barring Kahane's Kach party from running in elections. On November 5, 1990, a gunman assassinated Kahane in New York City. Kahane died, but the dangers of his doctrines lived on. On a February day in 1994, during the holy Islamic month of Ramadan, worshippers gathered to pray in the Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron. A terrorist walked in and massacred 29 of them. That terrorist was Baruch Goldstein, a Kahane follower and Kach member. It was only then that Israel outlawed the Kach party. The following year, 1995, the Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who oversaw the Oslo Accords, was assassinated by an extremist called Yigal Amir, who was associated with an offshoot of Kach called Eyal. Kahanists, who were seemingly rejected by Israel's mainstream political scene in the 1980s, run rampant today. The poster boy is no other than Itamar Ben-Gvir, leader of the Otzma Yehudit party. For many, PM Benjamin Netanyahu legitimized Kahanism when he appointed him National Security Minister. Ben-Gvir is a former member of Kach. His home once had a photo of the murderer, Goldstein. In 2007, an Israeli court convicted Ben-Gvir of supporting Kach and inciting racism. Ben-Gvir has at times attempted to distance himself from Kahanism. I am not Rabbi Kahane and don't support expulsion of all the Arabs and will not pass laws for separate beaches for Arabs and Jews. But his simultaneous reverence of Kahane puts this in question. Ultimately, Rabbi Kahane was about love for Israel without compromise, without any other consideration. Ben-Gvir, like his idol Kahane, has called for occupying more Palestinian lands, including the expansion of illegal Israeli settlements. He regularly makes provocative visits to Al-Aqsa compound, a flashpoint site. Palestinian prisoners, according to him, should be killed with a shot to the head. Since October 7, he has ramped up his provocations, like a campaign to arm Israelis, including illegal settlers in the occupied West Bank. The effects of the Kahanist movement reverberate well beyond Ben-Gvir, however. Meir Kahane's grandson, leads Hilltop Youth, a gang of violent settlers in the occupied West Bank notorious for committing violence against Palestinians, from intimidation to arson to murder. Then there is Bentzi Gopstein, a disciple of Kahane, who leads the anti-Arab, anti-Christian Lahava group. The Supreme Court banned Gopstein from elections in 2019 for his racist rhetoric, but that hasn't stopped Lahava's growing influence in Israel. In 2024, the US described it as the largest violent extremist organization in Israel, with chapters in every city and more than 10,000 registered members. Today, Israel is headed by the most far-right government since its inception, with a Kahanist in a top ministerial position. It begs the question, is Kahanism's influence in Israeli politics more powerful than thought?